let's talk about faith. Fundamentalist/evangelical Christianity have warped our understanding of faith. Instead of faith being understood as the willingness to embrace the mystery of God and the ability to trust and believe in a God who conquers death, even as we are surrounded by oppression and destruction, faith has become a litmus test used to at best exclude people and at worst harass them when they do not affirm the correct beliefs. Faith turns into a yoke of oppression, and we see this when Christians argue that women are to submit to their husbands and cannot be in positions of leadership. Women are expected to have faith that God will reward them for giving up their dreams and minimizing their gifts in the service of man. We see this in conversion therapy theology, which tells queer and trans people that if they want to please God, they need to deny who they are and have faith that God will make them straight. Instead of faith shaping reality, this understanding of faith requires distorting reality to fit into an agenda that benefits those in power, as evidenced in the obsession with the Second Amendment that too many Christians in the U.S. display. Instead of letting our faith guide us in how to love our neighbor, faith is often used to argue why it's okay to kill our neighbor or to allow them to die in another mass shooting. But we can expand our understanding of faith to make room for doubts, questions, and wrestling with theology, the church, and the biblical text. In fact, we must. In many readings of John chapter 20, verses 19 to 31, Thomas often gets a bad rap for demanding to touch the wounds of Christ. Many Christians hyper-focus on verse 29. But what if Thomas isn't one to be mocked or ridiculed, but one to be copied? Instead of words of condemnation, the author of John is very much talking to readers in verse 29, who, unlike the early disciples, did not witness the resurrection. John isn't saying asking questions is wrong and we need to accept theological ideas wholesale, but the author is signaling to readers that even though they didn't get to experience the resurrection firsthand, that their faith is still beautiful and still pleases God. That our faith is still beautiful and pleases God. The author doesn't even condemn Thomas's questions and instead presents a Jesus who meets Thomas where he is. As Christians, expressing our faith means having the courage to question and doubt, especially when it comes to harmful and toxic theology. Faith means having the courage to question those in power, even when it may cost us. Having faith in God means rejecting theology that idolizes guns and that treats women, queer, trans, and people of color as second-class citizens.